Hey, friend, thanks for being here. I'm Sherold Barr. I'm a master coach, also participated in Byron Katie's Institute and trained for about 700 hours. I have been a lifelong spiritual seeker, and today I want to talk to you about what I discovered after having a near death experience and being at that higher energetic state for about 4 months, and what it means that we have this energetic state, this vibrational frequency. This is scientific methodology I'm talking to you today about, so stick with me. After I had a near-death experience in 2017, I came home to recover from a car wreck in Mexico, and I had had several of Dr. David Hawkins' books. David was an MD, PhD. He was a psychiatrist, a nationally renowned psychiatrist, physician, researcher, and spiritual teacher. And he devoted his life to helping people stop suffering until he died in 2012. He created the map of consciousness and tested the calibration of all of the, from death was 0 to enlightenment was 1,000. So that's his scale was on that level. He calibrated a near-death experience to be at level 600. And I'd had a near-death experience after my third of 6 major abdominal surgeries within 5 weeks. So when I got home, I knew something had happened to me. I researched it and figured out it was a near-death experience. And I felt like I was in this bliss state and I had been touched by an angel. And my energy was so high. And I don't mean like jump out of bed, run around. I'm talking about I was in a higher state of consciousness. And that's what our energy levels correlate to. And so I was in that state for about 4 months. These states don't last, the awakened or enlightened states. In my experience, this was the third time and probably the biggest spiritual, it was because I was in that state for 4 months, but it was the biggest spiritual awakening I'd had. And mine came from trauma. And before I think it was a year before, I'd wanted to wake up. I'd wanted to be a higher level of consciousness, and I'd ask God for that. And boy, did God give it to me. So you get that in my experience from trauma. I'm sure there's other ways people get them, but it was painful. So I don't wish for that. I never ask for anything anymore except for other people. So the single most important thing you can monitor in your life is not anything in your external life, which would be your bank account, your weight, your social media followers. That's our outer life. That is what is considered in spiritual and scientific terms. That's an illusion. What matters, and this is what I found, because I was out there chasing the American dream. I wanted all these things, material things, because I thought if I had them, I would feel more secure. Well, wrong. That's why I encourage people to have a strong inner life. That's your toolbox when the world goes to heck and it's chaos and craziness like right now. So what I want to do is help people stop suffering and emotionally suffering. That's why I think I came back from almost death. So the thing that you can monitor is your vibrational frequency, which means your energetic state, because your energetic state creates your reality. So when I first discovered this truth by Dr. Hawkins in his map of consciousness, it changed everything I thought I knew about human potential. And it's a scientifically researched framework that reveals why some people attract abundance effortlessly, and why others, and also why certain people radiate peace and serenity, why other people are just living in chaos. Your vibe isn't just how you feel in the moment, it's an energetic frequency that you predominantly operate from, and it determines what shows up in your life with mathematical precision. So this is the science behind your spiritual GPS. But first, let me tell you, Dr. Hawkins spent more than 20 years conducting more than 250,000 calibrations using applied kinesiology, which is muscle testing, to map human consciousness on a logarithmic scale from 1, death, to 1,000, enlightenment. And what he discovered will blow your mind, because it blew mine. Every emotion, every thought pattern, and a state of being has a measurable energetic frequency. Okay? I'm going to say it again. Every emotion, thought pattern, state of being has a measurable energetic frequency. And think of consciousness like a radio dial. When you're tuned into a frequency, and just listen to some of these emotions, I just want you to take a few things away from here if you can. Shame calibrates at 20. Remember, death is at 0. Enlightenment's at 1,000. Next time you're in feeling shame, see what you can do. Listen to this. So you literally cannot receive signals of love calibrating at 500 if you're at 20. Guilt is at 27. So when you're in guilt and shame, you are in the lowest density, the highest, thickest density of a vibration. It's very low. If you've ever spent time around people who are, Debbie Downers or negative Neds, and they're just draining your energy, this is exactly why, okay? So when you're with people who have, feel more energized and excited about life, that there's a reason behind that. So you're on completely different radio stations. Think of it that way. This explains why someone who's stuck in victim consciousness can't understand how successful people think, and why someone operating from the love frequency can't relate to hatred, because they're vibrating at fundamentally different frequencies. And the most revolutionary part is you have the power to change your channel. This is your dial. You can change it. So the map that changes everything is David's map of consciousness. So from low to high, the levels of consciousness are, this is from low, okay? Remember, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, and willingness. Now, at level 200 is courage, and above that is neutrality, and I'll do another blog on willingness and how important willingness is in life, in making decisions. So, courage, though, you've got to have the courage to want to change, and that is at level 200. Everything below level 200 is negativity, dense energy, dark. That's what it is. So here's what will shock you. According to Hawkins, 85% of the people on this planet live below 200. So do you understand why we're having war? There's hatred. There's, ICE agents taking people and disappearing them to other countries. There's hatred coming from our president. There's fear. There's chaos. There's bombing. There you have it, right there. So those people are in this dense energy, and it is the opposite of what we want to be in to live a happy life. That's why there's so much anxiety and unhappiness right now. So if you're trapped in survival mode, you're operating from fear-based thinking, and most people are right now, and I'm sorry. I mean, even I get sucked into it myself. I have to be sort of knocked out of it. But if you're completely unconscious about what you're thinking and how you're feeling, you're probably stuck in fear. If you're watching too much TV, you're just hypnotizing yourself. You're taking in that energy, and the dark energy, that's what dark energy does. It comes right in through that television set, through the internet, and you are just taking it in. So be careful what you're putting your attention on. But courage, I love courage. This is what, as a 6 on the Enneagram, I went for courage because I was a fear type. I still am. But I've turned it to doing courageous things, so I feel better. So courage calibrates, as I said, at 200. And this is where everything changes. This is the shift from dark to light. So Hawkins referred to this as the stage of integrity. This is the point at which we begin to discern truth from falsehood, essence from ego. So I like to think of courage as a bridge to awakening, because it is at the level of courage where we transcend the very limited, dualistic, fear-based ego mindset. So it's really, you can think of this under 200, it's all ego-based. Above it is more of the higher levels, which is you're moving up to the divine. Love is at 500, and enlightenment is up at 1,000. I just was listening to a David video this morning. He said church is calibrated around 400. He said Buddhism is about 500, about 5 points higher. And then he said AA is higher. And I have heard that AA and Course in Miracles can help change your consciousness, because AA and Course in Miracles are all about moving to the love and to service. And there's much more to that, but that's what's so fascinating to me. So I like to think of courage as the bridge, and it's the bridge to awakening, because at the level of courage, we're going to transcend. And the bottom line is everything below 200 is force. And I like to think about this as self-will, because that's how I live my life. I didn't think about myself as turning my will over to God, which is what you do in AA. And it's thy will be done. And you turn it over when life's hard and ask God to, or the God of your understanding, because God's a trigger word for some people, but I like to use that word because that's how I study a lot of spiritual texts, and that's the God of my understanding. So I am turning my will over to God now, and I was the person my dad trained to go after the American dream, and I took hold of my dad's patriarchal dreams, because to get ahead, I had to work hard. So I literally pushed the boulder uphill my entire life, pushing, striving, driving, everything that we learned in the bro kind of dot-com bust. We had to just, run our bodies into the ground as females. This is just absolutely wrong, the hustle culture. Yeah, awful. So I was trained, and all of us are, because we live in a capitalistic society, and capitalism wants us to buy and consume and do all of these things. And that's why we're pushing and driving and striving. That is not the way to calibrate your energy, because it's going to be force. And David has a book called Power versus Force. Force is struggle, resistance, survival. And everything, listen to this, above 200 is flow, attraction, creation. This is power. That's where you have power. So why your vibe creates your tribe in your life. Everything is energy. That's it. Each of these energies has a signature or frequency associated with it. And this isn't just metaphysical theory, it's energetic fact. Your predominant emotional state broadcasts a signal into the quantum field. Like attracts like, with unwavering consistency. So when you're stuck in fear, calibrating at 100, you'll magnetize fearful experiences, fearful people, fearful opportunities, and your mind is going to interpret everything through the lens of danger and scarcity, because that's the frequent you return to. So if you're watching TV and our president tells us that people are eating dogs and cats, that certain Haitians, I think it was Haitians, so he is dehumanizing so that they're easier to be deported and disappeared, and then we go after them and people want to kill each other. That's why. So your mind, you're living in a fearful world where people of color, people of different races are genetically, I think someone said, he said they're genetically not right. That's Hitler talk right there. So you can see you have a choice. You can listen to that. It's important you get your news. I do, but I can't. If I'm like letting it go on and on and on, I'm tanked into the fear place. So be careful. So your mind will interpret everything through a lens of danger and scarcity, because that's the frequency you're tuning into on TV or on the internet when you're listening to him. I can't stand his voice anymore, so it's just I can't stand to listen to him talk. So when you rise to the level of love, guess what that level is? 500. You begin attracting loving relationships, abundant opportunities, and synchronistic experiences. And a person who calibrates at the level of love, 500, will counterbalance 750,000 people who calibrate below level 200. I got to say that again. A person who calibrates at the level of love, 500, will counterbalance 750,000 individuals on the planet who calibrate below 200. So one person operating from love literally transforms the energy field of hundreds of thousands of people. And that's why we need points of light, people who have this higher energetic state, to help us stay above water, because this is so important right now. So this is why monitoring your energy levels, your vibe, is not selfish, it's service. This is why it's so important for me to keep my energy at the level of love. And I have friends who do this work like I do, and I have a friend who will check my energy levels, and I operate anywhere from 450 into love. I'm right in that love 500 area, and it's not all the time, but it gets even higher if I go to a wonderful place in nature, and that's why nature is one of those places where you can kind of refresh yourself. So the brutal truth about low vibe living, and let me be real with you. I'm always real with you. I always try to tell the truth now. This is so important. That's why my Substack is called Awakening to the Truth. These are my awakenings. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go to SheroldBarr.com and subscribe if you're interested in this subject and many others like it. So shame is just a step above death. You've probably been, if anybody's contemplating suicide, either that, that's just, shame is really down where people are suicidal. It can take you down to that level. And think of it as self-directed hatred, which is sad. I mean, I grew up in a shameful a household with a mother who had a lot of shame. So cellularly, I think it got transferred to me and my siblings. But think of it as self-directed hatred. That's what shame is. And shame is at level 20. This is just right above death. You can't create anything meaningful because you're too busy destroying yourself. So this is why the best things you can do are to listen to high vibe music on YouTube. There's all kinds of ways you can do this. Nature, lots of it. In fact, I'll put some music that David Hawkins always said was some of the highest level of music. It sounds like organ church music, but it's way up there. So I'll put a link down below and you can listen to it. So think of this shame as you can't create anything meaningful because you're destroying yourself and who you are, which is, don't do that. Guilt is a step above shame, and you might think of yourself as a sinner, or you're unable to, forgive yourself for past regressions. And this is why forgiveness, I'll do another blog on forgiveness at some point. This is so important, self-forgiveness. Apathy is feeling hopeless or victimized, and it's a learned state of helplessness, and many homeless people are stuck there. Fear is seeing the world as dangerous and unsafe. So just listen to this. As I said, our politicians, Republicans, and our president right now want us to be at fear. Fear is at 100. Remember, enlightenment's at 1,000. Love is at 500. They want you at fear so you can be controlled like sheep. God appears punitive, and many of us, myself included, I grew up in the South, and there's a lot of sinners, we were born sinners, so I got out of that, let's put it that way. So God appears punitive, life feels threatening, and your primal drive is survival at any cost. But here's what most people don't understand. You can't think your way out of these states. You have to feel your way out of these states and consciously choose to let them go. And this is why prayer and asking God to, that thy will be done, not mine. That's a prayer I say every morning. And there's other prayers, and that's more I can put on, because it's so important to have these practices to bring yourself out of these moments. So the game-changing moment is moving from force to power. So that's getting above level 200, moving underneath these dense levels and moving up to power. And this transformation happens, as I said, at level 200, and this is your first level of true strength. This is where you see life as challenging and exciting instead of overwhelming. And at courage, you stop being a victim of circumstances and you start becoming a creator of your experience. I call this the high road. And when I had the near-death experience, the voice said, you get to choose. This is free will. God gave us free will, because we can choose in any moment what we want, and that determines our karma. Some of you may not believe in karma, but I do. But this is, I chose, in my unconsciousness, I chose I wanted to not be a victim. And then I thought, I'll choose the high road. So in my mind, the high road's anything above courage, 200. Because I said I'll use love and gratitude to heal. And I did. Those are those higher vibes. 540 is healing. Healing is right above love at 500 at 540. So at this level, you're guided by a force greater than yourself. You can call it universe, you can call it divine, creator, God, but your intuition becomes very strong. And this is where it gets wild. As you continue to ascend, willingness, willingness is critical to so much. It's at level 310. You become a trooper of society, willing to put work in without complaining. Acceptance, and these are all very important spiritual steps. Acceptance 350, you take responsibility for your role in creating reality, and you start setting goals that align with your authentic, your true self. Reason 400, you can think clearly, you can see patterns, you can make decisions based on logic rather than emotion, and then you hit the big leagues. This is where you hit the big leagues, level 500, and that's the love revolution at 500 and beyond. This is unconditional love territory. It's a constant awareness of your interconnectedness with all that exists. Consider compassion. And at the level of love, you now serve your heart, not your emotions, with a deeper sense of good and wrong. So it's good and wrong, your conscience, and with your head and all your talents and your abilities. And at love, everything shifts, and I can totally attest to that. You stop trying to get love and you start becoming love. I have a daily love practice where I go out and do my own, I don't know what I'll call it, ministry, for lack of another word. It's my tending, soul tendings. I go to the grocery store and I look at someone and I ask the checker, how are you today? And they'll tell me, and I'll say something nice to them or try and see them and help them and be loving to them, because they're being, they're not, a lot of people aren't nice now. So you can use this by making this your practice. This is my spiritual practice. You could do that. That's one way to boost yourself up. You stop trying to get love, as I said, and become love. And you attract not from neediness and scarcity, but from wholeness. And relationships transform from transactions to celebrations. And joy is at 540. And this is feeling deep inner serenity, compassion, and completeness. And around 600, this is peace. And this is near-death experiences at this level as well. And this is feelings of pure bliss. And it says only 1 in 10 million reach this level. So I'd say anybody that's had a near-death experience has reached this level. Because you feel like you've been touched by something very divine. So total transcendence. Hawkins claims this level is reached only by one person in 1 million. And this is the highest form of human consciousness, where humanity blends with divinity. So how to check your daily vibe? Here's some practical tools for consciousness elevation. Number 1, become a frequency detective. Examine the map of consciousness closely. I have put a link in here. Determine your vibrational level. Be truthful with yourself and observe the feelings you experience more often. And this is going to indicate your position on the scale. Ask yourself, what emotion do I spend most of the time in? And don't judge it, because if you do that, you're going to feel guilt and shame and you'll be way down. So you have to be aware. That's the very first step in change, transformation. And that's the first step. And if you're just aware, that isn't going to do anything except you're aware. You have to take it into action. Like I said, take a spiritual practice up and go and become the feeling of love. Go and care for people. Be in service of people. So being in service is being in a love vibe. We always say, when you're helping someone else, if you're feeling really shitty, go help someone else and you'll feel better. It's just helping someone else is a way of service. So the emotional ladder is number 2. You can't jump from fear to love overnight. This is not sustainable. And you have to find your shadows that keep rearing the ugly heads that you're not addressing. And maybe that there's a part of you, most likely, that needs to be healed. And a lot of us have a lot of wounds from childhood, and I've spent my life trying to heal many and most of them, but I only have one life here on the planet to do that, so I'm doing the best I can, and that self-realization is where it's at. So, there's a part of you that needs healing, and that will help you get to that next level. Climb this ladder of consciousness one rung at a time. If you move from fear to anger, you're no longer powerless. If you move from anger to pride, you're taking ownership. If you move from pride to courage, you're ready to face the truth. If you move from courage to willingness, you're ready to do the work. So that's why willingness is the flip. And you can also create a vibrational hygiene practice. It's a great word. You can practice a positive mindset. I love affirmations because they make me feel better. You can think loving thoughts. Gratitude is one of my big practices. So you flip to gratitude from fear. Stay in gratitude. Why are you grateful today? The sun is out, or for my grandson, or I love my dog, or my husband, or I'm feeling good today, or whatever. Eat a high vibe diet. You can, it's just, eating better for yourself, living raw, um, chlorophyll, fruits, veggies, herbs, that kind of thing. Any of that's going to help you. And I try to meditate every day. I don't always make it every day, but I meditate for 10 minutes minimum. And I also use essential oils, and I, put those on a blend with oil. And I try to spend time in nature every single day. Every single day. I take my dog out, even in the rain in the winter. I try to be outside because that's my quickest way to feel better. And, be aware of your bad habits and be open to shifting them. It's not about someone else or something that happened to you or anything out here. You are the change, and you have to have the courage to change yourself, not someone else. You cannot change anyone else. You cannot change things outside of you or any circumstances. But as my near-death divine person said to me, you get to choose. That's your free will. So the conscious choice point is what I just talked about. You can respond from your higher self or react from your lower self, which is ego, which is kind of the wounded self. And it's just about taking more responsibility and conscious choice. And energy, audit your environment. So everything around us affects our energy. The music we listen to, the channels you put on, who is telling you to be afraid, very afraid right now, the books you read, everything, internet, all of it. That is a choice. So are you consuming low vibe content and surrounding yourself with complainers and victims? All you have to do is ask yourself when you leave a group of people, do I feel more energized or do I feel drained? And that's your compass right there. And are you, basically I want to just say that your environment either lifts you up or it pulls you down, and just choose consciously. And, here's the ripple effect, why your frequency matters to the world. And I already said, one point of light, if you're at a higher frequency of love, you're going to, help lift up 750,000 people that are at level 200. So the higher we rise, the better our world gets. Everyone counts. And when you raise your consciousness, you literally make the world a better place. So every moment of work contributes not only to your field, but the field, this is your vibrational field, but the field of our collective. And your personal transformation is a gift to humanity. So for the next 7 days, I would like you to follow the steps that I've listed here in the blog. And if you want to be, you can set phone reminders. Here's one thing you can do. If you want to monitor yourself for the next week, just set a phone reminder every 2 hours and say, what frequency am I operating in? And then just look at, what was I thinking about? Was I in self-pity? Was I in victim mode? Was I in fear? And then just do a shift, because these are old patterns. It takes a long time to shift it. But don't judge yourself, please, and just say, what would love do? And that's what love would do, was going to take you up. So, and this all goes back to the main premise, is that your thoughts create the world, your world that you live in. And moving up the scale involves learning how to respond to events in the world with more conscious choice, I would say. And you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a creator responding to frequency that you're vibrating. So I've got more tips here, and if you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please go over and also click that you like this video and go over to SheroldBarr.com on Substack and subscribe. You can become a subscriber, and I offer some free workshops for subscribers over there. And if you want to be a free subscriber, you'll get my posts every single week. So thank you for listening and for following me, and I look forward to having you attend more of these videos or watch more of the videos I'm doing. Thanks again. Keep your vibe high. Hope you'll like this video and join me over at Substack. I am at SheroldBarr.com. That's SHEROLD Barr, BARR.com. So I'll see you over there, and I write once a week about topics, all kinds of topics that are related to spirituality, some business, and other subjects. See you there.